Ask yourself, what does your estate plan look like? Do you have a will? Do you have power of attorneys? Do you have a living trust? If so, when was the last time it was updated? The most common answer is a long time ago. Maybe when the kids were young, you were getting ready to go on a trip. Now they're grown and out of the house. And these documents typically are, left in the dark. And so today I want to talk about navigating the complexities of estate planning here in 2025. Keep it right here. Hey everybody, Chris Heerlein here of REAP Financial, host of KLBJ's Wealth Radio and Retire Ready TV on KXN every week here in Austin. Thanks for making us part of your day here. And if you enjoy this channel, hit the subscribe button. I drop new content on here every month. When it comes to estate planning, it can be daunting. It can be overwhelming, and often it's something that's kind of left behind, And if you've got your documents in place, that's great. But when were they established? And what has changed in your world? Maybe it's kids are now off the payroll. Maybe you've got grandkids. Maybe you've got charities that you want to leave money to. And the landscape changes. But here in 2025, what we are expecting is the estate tax limit and federal income taxes potentially could change. Right now, they're set to sunset and go back up as far as federal tax rates. They've been at historic lows for 40 years. But unless something happens in DC this year to extend these, tax rates are already in motion to go up heading into 2026. Now, something else that's set to change as well is the estate tax limit. Right now in this country, you could leave nearly $15 million per person, so you and your spouse, to inheritors, charities, anything of that sort. Leave up to nearly $15 million with no estate tax. Now, if you leave more than that amount, it would be taxed at 40%. So as you can imagine, a lot of people out there, a lot of retirees, they're not so worried about the estate tax limit because they don't have anywhere near that kind of wealth. But as I mentioned, with things changing potentially, unless something's passed in DC to extend, that limit's gonna go from 15 million down to 7 million. Okay, so now that's a huge drop, right? Now there's a lot of people out there that will have an estate tax issue. This is where you need to really consider consulting with an estate tax attorney because there are potentially things you could do right now in 2025 to be grandfathered in to these higher limits if the thing is not extended. Now there's also, just really on the other side of the coin, there is a good chance that these things may be extended. I want to be clear about that. We're watching things very closely. We got a new administration in the White House that's pushing to extend the tax cuts that we saw back in 2017, and that's when these estate tax limits went up. But again, as this environment's changing, your plan needs to be able to adapt as well. Several of the common pitfalls I see when it comes to your estate work is, number one, it's outdated. There's been additions to the family. Your values have changed. And so these things need to be amended along the way. It's not that you generally have to do like a brand new set of documents. A lot of these things can be in place for a long time. But as you think about the things that have changed in your world, that's one pitfall. Number two is just thinking, I don't need a will. I don't need power of attorneys because I don't have any assets, or I don't, have a lot of assets. Well, in this case, no matter if you've got a lot of assets or little assets, your estate will have to go through probate. And when it comes to managing an estate, let's put it this way, when you pass, whether it's your spouse, whether it's one of your children, it's a lot of work to probate an estate. And if money's being left, I don't care how close the family is, things can get hairy. And so you want to make sure you've got at least a will and power of attorney in place that's up to date. That can be a huge pitfall. Another is assuming you don't qualify for a living trust. A lot of our successful clients at REAP Financial, they like privacy, they like control, they like the idea that when they leave wealth to their heirs, it can go around probate, and that's where a living trust comes into play. It's not for everyone, but I tell clients it gives you control of the money when you're 6 feet under. You could literally draft within the trust that you want $300,000 of your portfolio left to the next 2 generations of college funds. You want one child to get a certain dollar amount at a certain age, while the other, that's a good steward with money, gets their inheritance immediately. So again, these are the layers of control that you can have. Another pitfall when it comes to trust is the idea that you get the trust established, but you don't fund the trust. You don't put assets in the trust. With a living trust, oftentimes you may want to consider titling the deed of your home, the title of your car in the name of the trust. Bank accounts, brokerage accounts oftentimes can be titled in the name of the trust. And by doing so, this allows these assets to go around probate with ease to your heirs, okay? Now, there are certain accounts that you don't want to put in the trust, or maybe you can't put in the trust. A lot of those are IRAs and 401ks, and I want you to consult with an estate planning attorney on why that may or may not make sense for you. But for many of our clients, we caution them about leaving IRAs, 401ks to trust, because you lose certain tax treatments, you lose certain time frames and how that money needs to be distributed and more. But be aware of the type of accounts you're going to fund the trust with. And one more thing on that, trusts are not just for the ultra wealthy. There's a lot of different types of trusts. I was just talking about the living revocable trust. There's irrevocable trust. There's charitable trust and more. Things that can protect your heirs, protect your wealth, making sure it stays in the bloodline in your family for generations to come. So if you're going to leave money, or you plan to leave money, you may want to consider a living trust. Hey, I always like to remind you to leave questions in the comments section below, and I'll answer those in future videos. And we got one from Jacqueline. She says, why does my financial advisor and so many others advise taking Social Security at full retirement age or age 70? Does taking Social Security early only work for high net worth couples? And that's a great question. Jacqueline, I work with a lot of high net worth individuals, and most of the advice out there, as you're mentioning, is wait till 67 or wait till 70, and that can make sense for a lot of people. But what we see is high net worth individuals, many of them retire sooner than others, which means they're going to be drawing on their portfolio sooner than others. And in this case, it may make sense to supplement some of your income needs or budgetary needs with a Social Security check, or maybe 2 Social Security checks. Also, high net worth individuals can find themselves being in the same tax bracket in retirement, or even a higher tax bracket than when they were working. That's something we navigate all the time. And so what we find is that many families that have more than $3.5 million saved fall into a category of really wanting to take Social Security early, because it actually performs in a way that they have more wealth in their later years, more money to cover long-term care needs, more money to do things with the family, or if there's a value to leave money to heirs. We see that oftentimes. Now, like I mentioned earlier, your specific situation is just that. It's specific to you. And so you don't want to take advice at face value. You want to have an analysis done, Jacqueline, that's really tailored to your overall wealth, your overall budget, and more. Now, getting back to wills and trust and your estate plan, what we often see is that business owners, families that have more than $5 million or more in wealth with plans to leave it, things get a little more complex, and you may need more specific planning. You may need more advanced planning. And this is where it's really important to vet a estate planning professional to ensure that they work with like-minded people, with people of your net worth, that you're not their largest client, that they have a fiduciary duty to you, and they have the experience to implement and execute on plans that are going to protect your wealth and help pass it for your kids and future generations. Click here to watch this next video on how to secure your estate.